Actually, I just found my new favorite quote of all time. So, teaching AP African American Studies this year. So I've teach U.S. history for like 15 years, so I know about Ella Baker and her vital role in the civil rights movement, but I never read a book just on Ella Baker. And Ella Baker is my new American hero. Absolutely. Okay. She's the greatest thing that this country's ever produced, is my current.
Bar none.
So I'm reading this book. So already Ella Baker has my heart going over the class. I'm gonna read this book, and in the first chapter, I read this quote. Ella Baker says, "I would rather play baseball than eat."
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
So
okay, so she's going to be on the team.
So Ella Baker, just her role. I mean, she is in the movement for the long haul. NAACP. So Ella Baker is going to be.
Is she at third base?
She's at
second. Okay.
Is there
so there you go. There's your tandem right there.
Combination. I said she's my American hero, so this is going to be my,
You're going to be on the same page for
That's it. We're turned place.
Yeah.
So when practice is over, everyone has to go home. Ella Baker's just got to hang out with me so we can.
We got to practice turn double plays.
Shortstop. I'll be second base.
Welcome to the third season of the January series in July. We are grateful you have chosen to spend this time with us. My name is Michael Wiltskett, and I serve as the director of the January series. Curiosity continues, and we are excited to share with you 3 compelling, engaging, and very different talks over 3 weeks this summer. The January series is grateful to our underwriters and supporters for enabling us to share these 3 events with you. Today's talk features Matt Vriesman, a Calvin alumni who was named the 2023 National History Teacher of the Year by the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. Matt believes that history education can empower all students to realize their own agency and therefore elevate their voices and strengthen our democratic institutions. Joining him in conversation is Dr. Brian Bolt, Dean of the School of Education and men's golf coach here at Calvin. Brian's research in teacher and coach development, play education, and Christian perspectives on sport and Christianity has made him a sought-after voice on the topic locally and internationally. Brian is the author of the book Sport, Faith, and Life, and he runs a podcast and blog by the same name. Today we also have a special bonus introduction today as Professor Robert Skuna-Youngen, retired professor of history, shares a touching intro he gave this spring at an event Matt and Brian participated in. Welcome to week 1 of the January series in July.
I want to thank Michael for introducing me. My name is Robert Skuna-Youngen, and for 15 years I was a professor in the history department here at Calvin. And among other things, I supervised student teachers, and that's how I got to know Matt. For 4 years, he was one of my advisees, and then he was a student in 1 or 2 of my classes. And then I got to watch him when he student taught at Grand Rapids City Middle School in the fall of 2007. As a student teaching supervisor, there were 3 things I like to really stress to the students. 3 things they had to love. They had to love their subject, they had to love their students, and they had to love the process of communicating their subject to their students. And then there was the secret ingredient of being a great teacher. And the secret ingredient was honest introspection. To always know what went right, to always know what went wrong. And when I would visit schools and watch Matt work, every meeting ended with those questions. What went right and what went wrong? In the middle of that semester, on October the 19th of 2007, Matt wrote this about himself, and I quote, "I went into my student teaching assignment with a lot of anxiety. I was nervous that I would not be a competent teacher. I was always afraid that my supervising teacher would be frustrated with me. I knew that he was a professional and that I was invading on his system. So far, I have been very pleased with the way things are going. I am encouraged by my own abilities and comfort in the classroom. I always enjoy my supervising teacher and my students. I have been excited to see the students engaged in my lessons, and it is a great feeling to see their excitement and interest about the different areas of the world we are studying. That was Matt's evaluation of himself. And that reflected honest introspection. What went right and what went wrong. And even this early, he could see the difference between the two. And I could see that every time I visited with him, every time we had the seminar, the weekly seminar, Matt would be very able to evaluate who he was and what he had done and how well it had gone. The semester was a smashing success. At the end of the semester, this is what Matt's teacher at City said about Matt. Matt has been outstanding throughout his student teaching experience. He has continually impressed me with his knowledge of the subject matter and of the learning process. In the 3 months in my classroom, he has not only taught the children, but also me, many different things. There is the mark of a good student teacher, when the teacher who you are under knows that he or she is learning from you. That was Matt in 2007. Later that year, after he graduated and he applied for a job, it was my honor to write him a letter of recommendation. Before he had ever been paid to teach a single class, I could write this. Rarely have I seen a student teacher who rose to the occasion of working in a classroom as thoroughly and capably as Matt did during the fall of 2007. He was the ideal person in the ideal setting at City Middle. The students quickly discovered that he was a person who genuinely cared about them as people, students, and fellow learners. Matt went the extra mile and became acquainted with everyone in each class as quickly as he could. He exhibited an obvious joy in seeing his students each time they came into the room. And beyond his infectious and friendliness, Matt demonstrated his caring through his well-prepared lessons he quickly learned to lead in a manner that belied his short time in the classroom. The next time I saw Matt, that I can recollect, was about 10 years later. Then I had the chance to work with Matt in a different capacity. Then he had become the mentor teacher for another student teacher that I had under my supervision. And there I could see him doing the best he could to convey his enthusiasm for the subject and the students to another teacher in a very, very effective way. In short, it should be no surprise that Matt became one of the teachers of the year. He has the passion and compassion that makes a great teacher, and so it's my privilege to turn this over now to Matt and Brian and the conversation that they will share with you.
Well, Matt, we're really excited that you've come here on a very busy day to talk with us. We talked one time before, which was awesome, and we want to kind of get that conversation out to a larger group of people. I know that this is the end of the school year, exams, all the students are anxious, and you're here with us, and so we totally appreciate that. That's exciting. The last time we talked, I realized that you like to have fun. And you like to get serious. So we're going to do both of those in this conversation. And we just want to kick this off. Like, you're a history teacher. I'm just going to ask you right out of the gate, if you could put yourself in one place in time as a fly on the wall, where would you be and why?
This is such a good question. I actually kind of ponder this out loud with my students. I try to get them to play, and then they just sometimes watch me play this game a little bit. World history, my question, I think, or my answer to that question would be traveling with Ibn Battuta, somewhere, maybe arriving to Constantinople before the fall of the Byzantine Empire. I think that would be my answer, but it changes all the time. American history, I think, again, this would be something that probably changes unit to unit based on what I'm teaching, but being a fly on the wall when Frederick Douglass and John Brown are meeting each other, kind of feeling each other out, I think would be fascinating. So I think that's my answer.
That'd be a great moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I can see how that's a really difficult question.
Yeah, it's a very fun question.
Yeah, but
It's a very fun
it
question.
gives us a little introduction into you. You've taught some world history. You focus in on U.S. history.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons we're having this conversation is you earned a couple of awards. First, you earned a State of Michigan Teacher of the Year Award, a History Teacher of the Year, and then the National History Teacher of the Year Award. You are famous.
Yeah, teacher famous. So I
Yeah,
don't know
you're
what that-
teacher famous. How exciting is that? So I wonder, this has been kind of a whirlwind for you. Tell me a little bit, walk me through the process. How'd you find out about this?
Yeah.
What did it feel like? What have you done since? I know you've done some appearances, a little bit of that.
So it was last spring. I actually got a couple emails. I got nominated for the Gilder Lehrman Institute History Teacher of the Year Award. And so I got a couple nominations, and they required me to submit some lesson plans, specifically like creative things that I do with primary sources. So I had to get some letters from my principals, which, you get the email and like, this is a little embarrassing. I'm, one in a, whatever. Apparently it's like 7,000 chance or something like that.
Wow.
So, but it's like, I'm going to ask my principals for this letter. I don't know. It's kind of like an embarrassing thing, but actually my wife talked to me and she was like, yeah, you're doing it. Just
Own
submit.
it. Yeah.
So I put together some resources and got a couple letters from my principals and submitted, and found out in July that I was the Michigan History Teacher of the Year, which was very exciting, great honor. And then it was this fall, early in the school year, where I got the call from Gilder Lehrman. They said they wanted to do an interview, so I didn't know if I was like, I think they had told me I was in the top 10 by then, so I didn't know if, what that was going to be. And so I get on the Zoom call with Gilder Lehrman. They told me, like, you're the National History Teacher of the Year. You got to come to New York City
Wow.
and give a speech. And I was just, kind of shocked. I was like, I don't know. But it has been a whirlwind. I was not exactly aware of how busy that would make my year. But, it's been a great honor, and I've been able to do some really cool things. I thought my highlight was going to the State of the State with our local Representative Skaggs, and I got to meet the governor. I got to had a different day with the Michigan legislature. I got to bring some students, which was so cool. And I really have rethought my interaction with the governor many times since, because I just had some really important things to say to her about history education, and I just was talking about my son and brushing our teeth together and talking about women and power. I don't know, but I've gone. I'm like, man, that was my chance. But so that was a highlight. But then I got a call from Congresswoman Skolton and invited me to the State of the Union in Washington D.C. And so that was the most fun thing. I mean, that's like the Super Bowl for a history teacher. So that was so fun. And then I ended up sitting next to Dana Nessel.
Oh.
So it was just Dana Nessel and I, Attorney General, State of Michigan, and she turns to me and says, it's funny because I just said the John Brown answer. She says to me, you're sitting next to Dana Nessel. I'm like, well, this is really cool. But Dana Nessel is also, she's really cool. She doesn't give off like a lot of like, you meet certain politicians and they make you feel like really special for a little bit, and they're really good at making a personal connection. But Dana Nessel is just, she was like pretty cool. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna play it cool. And then she asked me, hey, I just wrote a fascinating book about John Brown. What do you think about him?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me? This is my
Okay.
favorite question. And so I ended up, it was like this out-of-body experience. I got to meet Maxine Waters in the tunnel, and just Congressman Skolton was such a incredible host, and we got to go to Hakeem Jeffrey's office, and I was like, is this real life? And I got to kind of live out, I just got to experience a primary source firsthand. So just today we had our AP US History final exam, and students had to analyze an FDR State of the Union speech, and there I was, State of the Union. So it's been a whirlwind, but it's been a lot of really cool opportunities. So yeah, couldn't have expected that.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, and I can just tell, you were a bit starstruck when you had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., Makes me think of like a Parks and Rec episode when Leslie gets to go and meet the president or
Yes,
meet the vice president.
Yeah.
A little bit starstruck, but I know day to day you are in the classroom grinding away, working with your students, and we're going to hear a lot about those interactions and how you teach them. Just kind of a fun question here. They sometimes test you. They're high school students, right?
Yeah.
What's the best thing? What's the best excuse for not having your homework? You can remember?
I will say, I think I used to have a better answer for this. And I will say, I've been teaching now for a long time, and I try to fight it, but you get to be a little cynical. So there gets a point where some of the excuses, maybe I'm less amused by them. So I don't, it's a great question. I will say, however, there was one time this year where a student didn't have something, and he's like, my computer won't turn on. Like an ant, this is a direct quote, an ant crawled out of my computer, bro.
Oh.
And I look at the student next to him, and it was, I think, the hardest I laughed, and we have been bringing up the ant for the last couple of months now. Like, okay, guys, get out your Chromebooks.
Watch out for ants.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
That's my recent favorite. There was an ant crawling on his Chromebook, so.
And you've been at this for a while, but prior to that, to prepare to teach, you went to Calvin, which is great. We'd love to hear a little bit more about that. You entered into Calvin. And tell us a little bit about your Calvin experience while you were here. And did you always know you were going to be a history teacher?
Well, it's a good question. I had a great experience at Calvin. This was definitely the right place for me. I always loved history. So I was a little kid. I liked going to different historical reenactments and dressing up as Paul Revere for Halloween.
Oh, you were a history geek.
I always loved it. However, I didn't understand its importance till I got here. So history was kind of like a fun hobby, and my mom's a teacher, and so I kind of understood the rhythm of life, and just kind of I was always a people person. I was a camp counselor, so I thought, I like people. I like that aspect. I always liked school, but I wasn't a serious scholar. So I liked history as a hobby. But when I first got to Calvin, I was very excited, just the social aspect of college, right? So I came in. I thought, maybe being a history teacher is something I wanted to do. And then something happened at Calvin where I realized how much I didn't know. And that just made history so much more vitally important, kind of moved from like a hobby to something I was very, very serious about. I think I came to Calvin assuming that I had kind of all the moral questions figured out. I was sure I knew all the answers to questions about faith. I didn't know there was so many different questions. I thought there was just a couple, and I knew the right answers. And as far as history went, I don't like the language now, but I think my 18-year-old self would have said, I know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, what things we should fight for. But since everything was figured out, it was maybe a little bit less interesting to me. And then I got to Calvin, and it wasn't just my history classes, though history classes were obviously my favorite. But even my religion classes, I remember I had a religion class with Professor Crump, and it was a class just on the letters after Paul. And in that class, I remember just being like, whoa, I've been in Christian schools my whole life. I know all the answers, and I really started to realize there's a lot about my faith tradition that I don't know, I hadn't thought of. And then in history class, that was just happening all the time. I remember my first 8 a.m. class, that first Monday or maybe Tuesday after Labor Day, whenever classes started, I had a world history class. And in that class, I remember we read about Gandhi at the end. And all these incredible things that Gandhi was able to do, and the strength and the wisdom and the love for his fellow humans, and his commitment to nonviolence. And then, since we're at Calvin, we're talking a lot about his faith and his interaction with Christians. And we're reading these things, and I'm just agreeing with the guy who was rejecting Christianity on all these moral questions. And that was kind of mind-blowing to me. Like, there's a really big world out there, and I haven't figured everything out yet. And when you hit that point, all of a sudden learning becomes fascinating. I mean, I need to learn more about this world, because I thought I had figured it out and I didn't. And so I think every history class I took at Kelvin, Professor Dumais' class, Modern America, was very eye-opening. So yeah, Kelvin was the absolute right place for me to grow and to realize this is something that I not only am interested in, but I think is vitally important. So
Yeah, and when you think about that, your development during that time, you were asking yourself bigger questions than you had asked before. You were sort of wrestling with answers. These are things that you're trying to get your high school students to do as well, right? You're trying to get them to think differently about history, less about maybe dates or maps, and not that those are bad, but you're thinking, I want them to really dig into questions of mercy and justice. Who tells the story and why? All those sorts of questions. And I wonder, when you think of Kelvin's project of integrating faith into all those things, you're at a public high school. You're at a very diverse public high school. The rules are a little different than here at Kelvin. And I know you don't leave your faith at the door. Tell me how faith impacts your work day to day, either overtly or sort of underneath the surface.
Yeah. So I've been asked quite a few times this year about why I do what I do or why I'm so passionate about it. And I think I don't know if I've answered that question maybe as well as I have wanted to, because I haven't answered with language of faith. Right? I've kind of stuck to, not that this is not true either, but I've stuck to the basic classic liberalism, Enlightenment values, right? Founding values of our country about the value of the individual and the rights, the importance of the rights of all people. And so I think there's a lot of crossover between the values of our faith and the values of basic democratic values. But I do think looking at a class of students and just having the passion for each and every student to be able to grow. I mean, that's, as a teacher, that's your job. You want to take every student where they're at, meet them where they're at, and then facilitate growth for them, right? But you use the word grind, and it can definitely be a grind, right? And I think the most complete answer to why I do what I do, why I'm so passionate about it, is it comes down to faith. And I don't think if it went as deep as, hey, these are fellow citizens, future voters and future stakeholders, and I think those things are very important and they drive what I do. But I believe that all of my students are, we're created in the image of God, and that each and every student has intrinsic value. And I'm an emotional person, and I really, at the start of every school year when I look at that list and they're just names, and I know it's every school year I do this, and I look at those names and I'm like, well, I don't know anything about them, but man, in a few months I'm going to know for a lot of them more than I even want to. But I feel a responsibility, right? These are the students that I was given, and I don't want to. I'm not going to be naive and think my role is overly important, but I do know that education is a very important tool that we have in our society for equity, and we have to be excellent in education. And so I see those names, and I'm like, okay, these are the people who have been entrusted to me, and what I do matters. And so I think that's another. Part of the answer too. Teachers have to be positive, but there's going to be a lot of negative forces in a school building from staff and definitely from students, especially during the grind. You can have 5 great lesson plans in a row, but that's only a week, right? And then you still got a long, long time to go. So a teacher has to be a positive force, but not necessarily based on optimism, because there's going to be a lot of evidence to make you question optimism. And I think if you're going into a school year with the optimism that okay, education is this tool for equity, and I am going to, we're going to change the world student by student, it's going to happen because I'm going to be so excellent, and I'm going to be there for them, and I'm going to be so creative in my presentation. And, if you think that you're going to change the world and change every student's life, you're going to burn out real fast, because you're not going to do that. So tie it into the question. I'm really getting at versus positivity. Well, you got to be positive, but versus optimism, you have hope. And I do. I have hope for each of my students, and sometimes there's not always evidence to sustain this view. But I mean, that's where faith comes in. I literally do believe that all the interactions that I have with these students matters. And so my faith allows me to not question some of those things that I know causes teacher burnout. Like, what am I even doing here? Right? Like whether I really try to recreate this and, differentiate for each student, or I just kind of mail it in and give them a worksheet. Like, who really cares? It doesn't matter. But
to you, it does matter.
Yeah, I think our faith teaches us that it matters.
Yeah, I just want to affirm your answer. I mean, I think it's a hard question for anyone to try to figure out exactly the words to describe the motivations behind it, the actions, the things you're looking to do, but you did. I mean, when you're talking about the students themselves having value in and of themselves because of how they were created, who they were created by, they know who they are, they know whose they are, and the way that you communicate that love for your students gets through. Whether you say that overtly or not, I think that that's a really positive thing. And like you said, we're always learning. We're trying to develop those skills, sharpen them, and we're trying to do that for our students as well. Opening up some opportunities for them, giving them the tools to be able to make it in this world, ultimately to flourish, right? To flourish and develop as creatures of God.
Yep.
Yeah.
And well said. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And yes, well said.
Yeah. Okay, let's change the tone a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, so we got the printing press, we got the light bulb, we have the automobile, and we have the cell phone. Which invention had the most impact on history?
Well, I think this one way easier than the first question about where I'd want to go in history. Because I think it's obviously the printing press, because you
The
wouldn't.
printing press.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't even have the other things.
But you
without
can't
the
read it
printing
without the
press.
light bulb.
Well, okay, but they had candles, so and oil lamps.
Yeah.
But I mean, like
Yep.
the printing press is going to fuel our modern world, right? So.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm a history teacher, so
You got to go.
printed
You
word.
got to go with printing press.
But I mean, we're not going to get to the scientific revolution. We're not going to get to the Reformation. We're not going to get to the political revolutions that create the. We're not going to get the spread of the basic Enlightenment values that I just said is my motivation for being
Yeah.
a teacher. So I could teach students without a light bulb, but candles or something. But like without the
But
spread,
ideas spread
out without
from the printing press.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
So we need the printing press.
I like that answer. That's good. Yeah. So bring me back to Kentwood a little bit here. Give us some context for your school.
Okay.
Tell us how big it is. Tell us what part of it you work in. Give us an idea of the classes that you teach, but also your students. Where do they come from? What are they like?
Okay. Kentwood Public Schools is an amazing place. It really is. It was a place that I didn't even understand what West Michigan was when I was growing up here. I went to Calvin Christian High School, Calvin College, and I don't know if students still joke like this, but this constant joke about how we're in this very like a not very diverse place and like Dutch culture dominating West Michigan, and I had no idea that I teach at the most diverse high school in the state of Michigan and the fourth most diverse school district in the United States.
A lot of first-generation immigrants.
A lot of first, and it is, I mean, you can't think of a better environment to teach history. I mean, come on, I teach world history, but even U.S. history, right? And just the continuous reinterpretation of what our founding values mean, and for who, and for all the heroes throughout American history that push us and push those definitions to be more inclusive, and the role of embracing multiculturalism and just how powerful that is. You teach that in Kentwood Public Schools. Multiculturalism isn't just this another ism or a vocab term, but you're like, yeah, I mean, of course, like multiculturalism is the realization of so many of our founding principles. And teaching world history is fantastic. So I teach AP, part of your question, what do I teach? I teach AP US History, AP World History, and this year we just got done the pilot AP African American Studies course, which was an incredible experience. But just teaching AP World History at Canton Public Schools, we have like 80 different countries represented in our district. And we have students from everywhere. So it's just such a fantastic place to explore the broad themes of world history and about how the different movements from the Columbian Exchange, the Industrial Revolution, how these things impact lives all over the world. And just having students share their experiences. My favorite project of the year is a food project. We do a Columbian Exchange project, and they have to come. They can bring any dish in the world. It could be important to them. Could be sometimes kid brings in Oreos. They talk about whatever had the processes that had to happen, and just watching kids come to it. Like there's a next level in a student who you could be like, I don't know if I'm really reaching this student, and I'm trying every single day, but I don't know if there's a connect. And just had a student this year stands out, and she was presenting on a dish from Puerto Rico. And she was talking about the indigenous roots of the dish and how to her this dish represented resistance and voice and continuity. And I was just like, I've never said anything more beautiful or powerful in my entire life. And this is a student who I was like, typical high school student, not engaged, doesn't really care. How can she not care about world history? This is the most interesting thing. And then you just give opportunities for students to talk about who they are and where they're from and make connections to the class. And it's the best. It's the best. Did that answer the question?
No, that's great. Can I follow up a little bit?
Follow up.
Let's talk about those students. If they were sitting here and I was asking them, tell me about Mr. Vriesman.
Oh boy.
What words would they use to describe you?
There's a new word in their vocabulary that I'm not crazy.
There's a lot of new words and vocabularies. I can't keep up.
I can answer however I want. They would just say that I'm the greatest teacher of all time.
There you go.
And everything I say is so interesting, and everything is so engaging, and how they question if it really matters, how they act towards each other, but then they just hear me, and then all of a sudden their views change, and they want to make this world a better place.
Perfect.
That's what they would all say.
Nice.
No, seriously, there's a new word they use frequently. It's called yapping. And I've heard that this year I haven't heard before, and that is that I'm yapping. And I'm like,
is yapping positive or?
No, yapping's not positive.
Okay, all right.
Yapping is you're just talking, but you're saying meaningless stuff. I'm like, I'm literally telling
I'm not
you
yapping.
The causes of the Industrial Revolution. They consider that yapping.
How could they not care? That's amazing.
So they do know that, I guess part of they're brilliant teachers they kind of like this type A teachers who just have a really rigid system. And that's excellent, right? And some kids thrive in that system. I'm not that teacher. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm enthusiastic. I really do care about them. I think whatever the lesson is really is vitally important to their human experience. So I got all the passion. I got all the energy. But they know that it's not too difficult to get me off track. And so the seniors have it down to a science, right? They'll just...
What does it take?
Literally any question about current events. We just had one not that long ago where, like, okay, we have this exit ticket. You got to write a thesis statement. This AP African American Studies. We're talking about Black feminism, and all right, at the end of class, we have this exit ticket. It's really important. And a student raised their hand. So a few weeks ago now, they're like, "How come, Mr. Vriesman? How come the United States is the only country in the Security Council that didn't vote for statehood for Palestine?" And I knew what they were doing, but I was like, also, that's a great question.
It's an opportunity right
so they
there.
think they're getting me. They're like, ha, we're getting I'm like, I don't know, you guys.
Well, let me tell you.
Now you're going to engage to, it works every time. And then, we didn't have time for that exit ticket. And then I ended up not doing it the next day either because then we would have been behind. And so, who won? They think they did. I think I did. But I'm very easy to get off track. So.
And
Students know this.
Truth be told, it's a good tool for you. You want them to have those sorts of questions, and it's a little bit of a game,
Right.
right? They're going to ask you those questions. They're going to get you off the day's topic, and yet that becomes the day's topic.
Right. So, and with the rigid AP schedule, you just can't get behind. We're not supposed to, but I do.
Yeah.
And we make up for it.
Make
But I
up
think
for it.
Ultimately, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think I had an important answer. We had a little discussion. There might have been some yapping on my behalf. Their terminology, not mine. But
Yeah. So I think I read in one of the stories about you, or I saw a video, I'm not sure, but you talked about in your early years, you wanted to be the shortstop for the Detroit Tigers,
Yep.
right? Who wouldn't want to be the shortstop for the Detroit Tigers? Who was the shortstop in your era?
Alan Trammell.
Oh, so you're old enough to have it be
Oh, sure. My first.
Whitaker and Trammell.
Yep. My first game.
Whitaker should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
Come on.
my son's name is Lou.
Oh, there we go.
My second son. So I wanted to be able to say and Lou all the time.
Nice.
So
Very
Trammell,
good.
Lou,
Very good.
James and Lou.
So you were going to be the shortstop for the Tigers.
That was the goal.
They could use a shortstop right now, by the way, but you didn't make it.
Didn't make it.
But here's what I'd like you to do. So you're playing shortstop for the
Okay.
Detroit Tigers, and what I want you to do is sort of round out the infield with people that you would want to play with.
Oh.
So you could use a baseball player if you want to,
Okay.
but you don't have to.
Okay.
Anyone that you would want on your team. We do this thing, I coach the golf team, and we call it our dream foursome, right?
dream
The dream foursome. Like, I'm going to play, but the three other people are going to be boom, boom,
Okay.
boom.
So I'm shortstop.
So you're the shortstop. Give me some people in history that you would like to play with.
Okay. Wow. This really is. So I said the first question was very fun about where in history would I want to be, fly on the wall. This is the intersection of my interests, the things that could really get me yapping. So I don't know how long this conversation is supposed to be. I'll try to keep it short, but this question is so fun, and it's something that I will be thinking about for the rest of my life.
All right.
Okay, so we're the Tigers, but it's a historic. I'm the shortstop.
You're the shortstop.
I'm the shortstop. Okay.
Old English D.
The proper Old English D.
Yep.
Now,
None of these new uniforms. Forget that.
I
Yeah.
just.
No care for history, I tell you.
It's an incredible disregard. They call them the City Connect. It's a disconnect.
It
Are you
is.
kidding me? I was going to
Disconnect.
maybe take my sons. We were going to go to a ball game. I knew I would take my boys to a ball game. I can't have Lou seeing the Tigers playing his black uniforms, right?
No.
His first game, they're going to be wearing the same D for my first game, for my dad's first game, for their grandfather's first game, and for their great-grandfather's. City Connect, disconnect. Anyway, what are we talking about? My infield.
You have to give me an infield. Yeah.
See, that was an example of how.
Yeah, I got you off track.
Okay, so
You were right. Those
I'm playing
uniforms
shortstop.
are awful.
Actually, I just found my new favorite quote of all time. So, teaching AP African American Studies this year. So I teach U.S. history for like 15 years, so I know about Ella Baker and her vital role in the civil rights movement. But I never read a book just on Ella Baker, and Ella Baker is my new American hero. Absolutely, she's the greatest thing that this country's ever produced. Is my current.
Bar none.
So I'm reading this book. So already Ella Baker has my heart going over the class. I'm going to read this book. And in the first chapter, I read this quote. Ella Baker says, "I would rather play baseball than eat."
Oh,
Are you kidding me?
wow.
So,
Okay, so she's going to be on the team.
So Ella Baker, just her role, I mean, she is in the movement for the long haul. NAACP. So Ella Baker is going to be
Is she at third base?
She's at
She's
second
at
base.
second. Okay.
Turndow
Is
plays
there a
Ella Baker.
Oh,
Just
so
because
there you
one
go. There's your tandem right
keystone
there.
combination. I
Love
said
it.
she's my American hero, so this is going to be my,
You're going to be on the same page for
that's it. We're
Everything.
Turndow place.
Yeah.
So when practice is over, everyone has to go home. Ella Baker just got to hang out with me so we can.
We got to practice
I
her in
think
double
she should
plays.
be shortstop. I'll be second base.
Nice of you to offer that up.
I don't know.
All right.
Now I'm putting myself, okay.
Fair enough.
Anyway, okay, so, boy, I think first base, I can have a baseball, I can one baseball player.
You can have a baseball
Okay,
player.
let me have Cecil Fielder, just because I grew
Oh,
up with
what a
Jim.
call.
So,
Cecil
I mean,
Fielder. You're going to go,
Cess,
of
are you
all the
kidding me?
players in,
I mean, just look at that guy in the Old English D crammed in there in the summer of 1990,
Yeah.
just mashing bombs over the roof.
it was a lot of fun.
Cecil, come on. So I got Cecil first, Ella Baker at second. Nope, me at second, Al Baker at short. Then I'm a history teacher, so I'm gonna have Teddy Roosevelt playing third base. He's got the big stick. You need a lot of power.
You do. Third base, it's got to hit some home runs.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Tigers know that, but
We're not seeing it. No.
wait a minute. I have a third baseman a long time. So behind the plate,
Kind of the person that runs the show.
okay,
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm gonna stick U.S.
Yeah.
U.S. history president theme. I'm gonna go President James Garfield because the catcher's got to be the smartest guy on the field. He's the smartest president. He could recite the Aeneid in Latin, and he's brilliant. Before the assassin's bullet, well, really the botched medical care afterwards really got him. And then on the mound, okay, now I'm in AP African American Studies.
You need a lefty and a righty.
Okay,
I think,
lefty and
right?
a righty. Okay.
I think you're going to need. I mean, we won't get into the bullpen, but you're going to need a lefty, maybe even politically lefty, and a righty. Well, I don't want to mess you up here.
Okay, so as soon as you said lefty or righty, something popped into my head.
Okay.
And I might regret this, but I'm going to go the Bushes as my lefty and righty, father, son. So
I think they were
Right.
They were lefties. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
George H.W.'s lefty, and then I might regret this, but I think one of the most important pitches in American history after 9/11. W takes the mound at Yankee Stadium, and he fires a strike.
He didn't practice either.
I mean,
He just stepped up there and he let it go.
and it
He could have easily backstopped that ball.
I mean, literally every presidential first pitch of all time, and this one was it was the right pitch at the right time. Now, overall, I don't know if that type of kind of bravado and confidence in the Oval Office was the best path forward for us, but out of my starting pitcher, I don't want too much second guessing. I want
Just
bravado.
indecision,
Go for it. Fire strikes. So
confidence. Stepped
go.
into that spot.
I'm gonna go with W as my starting pitcher. So that's a weird team I just made, but there we go.
Yeah. Well, I love that answer. I love how you're having fun with it. I know you've tried this with world history.
Yes.
You kind of focused here on United States history. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about young Matt. So you were a baseball player.
Yeah.
Young Matt here at Calvin, right? And a lot of the people that are watching are going to be Calvin alum, I'm going to guess. So you can even use words like Schulze-Eldersveld.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So the people are going to know what that means.
Right. Yeah. Third
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah. Tell
Schulze.
us about
Wait,
Matt at
Second
Calvin.
floor, Schulze. My bad. Third floor. That was the.
Okay. You were at Schulze.
Yep. Second
Okay.
floor. Second floor. I was so excited when I got to Calvin. So I kind of said my first day, that first class, world history. I did love that class, but I was maybe overrepresenting the quickness, which I turned into intellectual
A
pursuits.
good student. Yeah.
I was so excited. Just the dining hall. I mean, I was eating Captain Crunch and pizza and ice cream.
All in one meal.
It was just, I love the social aspect. Coming to Calvin was so fun. And people, if they were here in the early 2000s, I was maybe, now that I kind of think about it, looking like an idiot all the time, playing wiffle ball out in the Commons lawn.
Okay.
We actually named, there's like a little triangle in the path. If you come to I don't know how to describe it, kind of out by the dining hall.
Yeah.
We called that Cut Class Park.
Cut Class Park.
Cut Class Park.
Okay.
There was a time, not proud of this moment, but like I'm sitting in, it's like Friday afternoon, you got a philosophy class. Now, oh boy.
You would love to sit on philosophy
Love to
classes
sit in
now.
philosophy
Education
class now.
is wasted
But,
on the
you
young.
know, I got another friend in there. We kind of look at each other, and Professor wasn't there yet, so there we go. Cut class.
Cut class.
Probably should have hit 2 home runs. There was one year we were like keeping statistics. It got a little weird
Okay.
and nerdy. The grounds, we actually got told that we weren't allowed to play there because we had gone to Meijer and got a bag of flour and put base paths down. And
Ooh, nice.
I mean, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
That sounds awesome.
yeah, Calvin College, I'm going to think about ice cream for dinner with Captain Crunch and wiffle ball.
Cut Class Corner.
Glass Park. Yep.
Nice. Very nice. So there are students here now, right? There are students at Calvin, and they, some of them are choosing to go into education.
Good choice.
Okay. So right now, the number of people choosing education is actually going down across the state of Michigan, across the nation. Fewer and fewer people going into teaching. You are as enthusiastic about teaching as you were when you were 21 years old.
Yeah.
And maybe more.
Yeah, more.
And maybe more. So tell us why. What would you tell those people thinking about teaching, those people that have chose teaching, that are maybe second guessing? Tell us what you think about the profession and inspire them.
Well, okay. First off, I'm not trying to take this lightly, but summer vacation,
there you go.
Christmas break, spring break, these are institutions in my life. I talk to my friends who went in other paths and talk about their work schedule. Like, what are you working towards? There's no end in sight. They're like, I don't know, 20 years I'm going to retire. I'm like, I'm just working to spring break.
There's a rhythm in teaching,
There's a
right?
rhythm.
You're at the
It's
end of a
glorious.
semester. It's difficult to get to the end, but then
Are
there's a
you even
release.
alive if you're not drinking coffee on your front porch at 9 a.m. on a June 2nd?
There you go.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, I have little kids, so it's not really like that.
No coffee.
No. So the profession it's great. It gives me, it literally gives me energy. Like when I'm tired, I get to talk about history all day, or yap about history all day. But I think the job it's so fulfilling because I think what I do matters. There's never one single second of my life I'd be like, what am I really doing? Is this important? Like, yes, this is important work, right? Am I doing enough? Should I volunteer? I'm like, I'm doing enough, right? So I have all the satisfaction of that I'm using my time and my energy to something that matters. I see it as I'm very much living out my values and my faith every single day. And here, state of Michigan, your public school job, I think we overemphasize, teachers don't get paid anything. And I don't really know. I think maybe my friends do make a lot more money than me. But
you're doing okay.
Yeah.
You're doing okay.
And these teachers who are marrying teachers, you look at the Kentwood Public School parking lot, they're doing fine.
They're driving nice cars.
I'm always asking fellow teachers, especially if there's two teachers, what are you doing? Like, we're going on the cruise for spring break. Cool. Now, the current retirement system isn't quite as great, but one of my friends, he's like 54, he's like, I'm out. I'm just going to go to a lot of baseball games for him. Like, that's an awesome life. No, but it is important. It is fun. If you have a subject that you love, I get excited to go to school. I even hit a point this year for the first time in my entire life, and I also love the glory of a snow day. Are you kidding me? I actually hit a point this year where we woke up and it was a snow day in late March. And I was
You were
mad.
upset.
I was like,
I got stuff to do.
Like, what have I become? I don't know. So anyway.
Someone who cares about the work that they do, which is awesome. Now, we can wrap this up here soon. I want you to think about if there's anything I haven't asked you that you wish I did. But I'm going to first have you talk a little bit about, you mentioned a family. So tell me about your family.
Yep. My wife, Katie, and I have been married since 2010, and we have two little boys, James and Lou. James Harwell, middle name, tied to the Detroit Tigers there. So they are 5 and 2. And being a dad is wonderful. It's also way harder than being a teacher. So I can let stuff go a lot easier for students. I really think they all matter, and I'm really trying to do my best, but I'm like, I don't think I would do that again that way. But then I can just kind of sleep it off. But with my children, I'm like, how am I supposed to be the one making these decisions for them? I'm not
What were they
qualified for
thinking
this.
sending them home with us?
So, being a dad is my favorite thing in my life. And it's very hard and it's very wonderful. So, and my wife, Katie, is... I've been very blessed by her sense of adventure. I really followed her. We went and lived abroad. We lived in Korea for a few years. I got to teach U.S. history in Korea and then in Kuwait for a couple of years. And so she is full of adventure, and I love adventure, but I don't think I ever would have been able to make that bold of a leap. So, we love travel. Hopefully someday we can travel with our boys, but right now we're just trying to figure out how to keep everyone clothed and fed and alive for now.
Into the bath, into the bed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, easier said than done sometimes. But
Really cool. Are they baseball players?
Little Lewis.
Okay.
Little Lou is, now I'm going to get my phone and start showing you videos. He goes up to the tee. He's a lefty.
Okay.
He's like, his little boy, I'm Riley Green. And he's just got this.
Ah.
He really understands the transfer of the weight. And he can blast it. And James, James, he's 5. He's not had as much interest. James is a reader. He's a geographer.
Okay.
But his swing is leveling out. So
Okay.
not trying to push
Could be
him.
coming along. No, it's fine. Turn maybe a golfer. We'll see. Oh, ouch.
Sorry. I love mini golf.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
Edit that part out.
Yeah, no worries. Any final thoughts as we sort of wrap this up?
All I can think about is an infield of women in American history who I'd choose. So no, now that's half my mental energy is on that. I'm gonna think about Scratch for
You're gonna go to bed tonight thinking about filling out your infield with women, filling out your infield with scary characters, congressional villains of history, maybe.
Villains of history.
Yeah. Lots of
Like
opportunity.
a dictator team.
Yeah. How good would that be? That could work.
Okay. Yep. My
It's
final
like the Yankees. Everybody hates the Yankees.
yeah.
There we
Everyone
go.
does hit the Yankees.
There we go.
But anyway, yeah. Thank you so much. It was such an honor. Like January series.
Pretty exciting, huh?
This is an institution, so like I feel like I made it.
Well, it's our privilege and it's our honor certainly to have you here. We certainly embrace you as a history major, as somebody who went through the education program, School of Education. It just is thrilled for the progress that you have seen in your students, but also for the arc of your career and the things that you've been able to do. It's very exciting, and we just want to pass that on to every generation and just draw more people into teaching.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, did I answer that question?
Which
Be
one?
a teacher. Yes.
Be a teacher.
Be a teacher. We need teachers.
Be a teacher.
It's a great job. Summer vacation.